as a trans woman. I work every day as a trans woman. I'm a law-abiding, society contributing citizen as a trans woman. There is no hiding.
Well, that's wonderful. This is something that the world needs to see. They don't get to see this too often, and mainly with your relationship with William. Now, William, I want to ask another tough question because I think that it's really important to ask these things so people can understand it. They're coming from people that live these lives every day. Now, what do your parents think when you bring Sage home? What did they think when you brought her home?
They like her better than me.
Oh.
Okay, so to be frank, my mom for the longest time was like, when are you going to take me out to the club so I can see my girlfriend and my girlfriend meeting her? So my mom actually apparently knew well along the lines before I ever did. So my mom and dad love her. Actually, we had a family Christmas. She was unfortunately, at the show, but we had a little short family get together. And when I walked in, every single one of my family members was like, where's Sage? And I was like, you know what? Hi, everybody. I love you too.
Now, let's talk about you on your job, Sage. Now, when you were, William, when you were transitioning, were you female before you started your job, or you were male? You were dressing as a man.
So I am very, 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 very unapologetically me, just as she is. And so I had a very interesting transition because I wanted to graduate with a degree I knew that could take me anywhere in this world, and that would be always needed. So I held off my transition, even though I knew who I was, to get that for myself. And actually, the year before I graduated, I started as an intern with the Indianapolis VA, where I stayed for 10 years, worked the COVID care unit, but also started my transition there. So I was female starting out with a bunch of predominantly male, very right-wing conservative Fox News on every television. But amazingly, those veterans were some of the kindest and most supportive. Now, not always some of the employees, but the patients themselves, because of the brotherhood they created within the military, because of, thankfully, the revocation of a don't ask, don't tell, and that little kind of mindset that they kind of want to go back to it. These men worked alongside every individual like us. And they respect us because they know I'm there to care for them, just as they were to care for our country. But after COVID care, I was a little burnt out. So I stepped back for a little bit, did a little short stint at IU Health Home Hospice, because that was actually where I started, was oncology and hospice care. And then finally was afforded my wonderful job opportunity, which I adore. I actually work for Indianapolis's largest social organization for HIV and AIDS, known as the Damien Center in Indy. And I'm one of our 4 set clinical registered nurses that take care of our population that a lot of individuals in the city would otherwise overlook. We provide HIV care, STD care, PrEP care, PEP care, now HRT care. And I found that our clients are so appreciative, and it's just a valuable work. And it wouldn't be without folks contributing to our organization and helping us out so we can provide that care where otherwise people are turned away. So my passion has just always been making sure those that are often overlooked, make sure they feel just as respected and taken care of as any other human being in this country should.
Okay, one more question for you, William, and on a serious note as well. I know it's leading more serious, but I think that these are important issues and things that we should understand. Now, how do the doctors treat you? Have you met any doctors that knew you when you were, who you were born as, and then as you transition, how do they treat you, the doctors? Because doctors can be shaky.
Right. So you mean for me personally, or working alongside them, or both?
Well, I think that doctors think that they're very professional people in a real serious situation, and then of course they met you as who you were at the, like you said, when you graduated, and now you're different. How to do some of them, or they just don't care?
Honestly, I have an extremely hard work ethic, and that comes from a very deep family supportive background. And I always let my work speak for myself, and
Mhm.
never once, especially even at the VA, surprisingly, did I have a doctor disrespect me because they cared so much about how I was as a nurse.
Oh, okay.
And then same vice versa within where I'm working now. Most of us are of our community, which is a
Oh, okay.
blessing. And we get to provide that care together and get to be that, we worked hard for our degrees. We busted that so we could be there for those that didn't get that care. So
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, only time I really ever ran issue in the past being a registered nurse and being of our community is that I did do a job interview up in a little bit wealthier part of Indiana, and I did 2 interviews. And after the in-person interview, the poor manager was almost in tears apologizing for saying, denying me the job, though they had no other interviewee. And her excuse was that I was too empathetic. And I was like, ma'am, I'm pretty sure that's chart one on being a nurse, but I understand what you're saying. And so in hindsight, it was a blessing, but I feel I was too me in that sense of, of being us for those individuals. So I
Well,
respected it.
Well, sometimes life is challenging, and it's wonderful that you are, you're pushing forward, and this is a good thing, pushing forward. Now, let's talk to you, Sage, about you being a show queen, a show entertainer, and do you miss Las Vegas?
Oh, terrible.
If I wasn't a ginger.
And he's treating you too. If he wasn't a ginger with his fair skin and red hair, I would be moving back to Vegas after I graduate. But because of the sun, I can go visit Vegas and come home to him.
We've agreed on a condo hustle.
Right.
We'll work hard for the money.
Well, even though I live in Canada, I'm originally from Florida. I was born in Orlando, and I grew up in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And I've been in Canada now 35 years. But Florida would be a great place for the two of you. And as a nurse there, William, you could make a great living in Florida. You could make a great living. I know you might not be able to want to deal with them hurricanes and all that. But overall, Florida is beautiful.
And we actually just went for the first time for myself in 31 years. I never had been for my birthday last year. So that was exciting for me.
Yeah, Florida is a beautiful place, and it's clean, and it's.
Side note, I'd rather be in Canada.
Oh. You don't want to be. It's freezing here, and
that's all right. I can take the cold. She can wear blankets.
Oh. Now let's talk a little bit about what your guys' plans are for the future. What are you planning to do? Are you guys going to get married, or are you married now?
We well.
We ask on the regular.
You're actually, as of 2023, you are officially the 6th person to ask us that since the
7th,
new year.
Because I got asked. I got asked another time, but without you.
We get asked often about marriage, and we are very much in love with each other. But we're going to wait till the time is right, and you'll know when it's right.
Why rush a good thing?
Exactly.
No, a ring on a finger is wonderful, but it's a tradition. It is just a tradition that is obviously symbolically represented, obviously, in a very religious aspect. My love for her does not change with a ring on that finger or not.
Now, can I just say this? I want to talk a little bit about your experience going into our bars, our community, you as a couple. Sage, when you introduce William to your friends, what do they think?
Well, the funny thing about it is that he was already a part of the community before. So there was really no need to introduce him. The shock came when people actually realized that we were together. That was the shock because they didn't see us. They didn't see us coming together. And truth be told, we didn't either. You know, it just happened. Honestly, it literally came out of the clear blue. He was bringing me home one night so I wouldn't have to call an Uber. And we were coming up the road, and I just
went the wrong way.
He did go the wrong way
because I thought she still lived where she used to live.
We were coming up the road, and I just happened to look over to my left and look at him for the first time, and it just hit me. Oh, wait a minute, he is kind of cute. I never looked at him through that lens until that night, that very moment. And so as much of a surprise as it was for the community, it was a surprise for us as well. And then it just kind of flowed naturally from that point.
You know, I like the way you said that. The way you said it was incredible because it really connected the two of you. I can see that the two of you are very smart people. And I like that. I like smart people. I mean, she's an older white lady, and she's very smart, but she hates being on camera, and I try to drag her over here, so she's like not having it. But I like smart people that the way you've talked today means that you have dealt with a lot of the adversity in a positive manner and just kept it moving. And this is something our community should understand, that we have to live our lives and just keep it moving. We have to face adversity, of course, but we have to face it head on. We can't be hiding anymore. This is, and the fact that the two of you I can look at you and see that both of you are very comfortable in your skins and who you are. And this has made a great impact on me. Just looking at you, I would never know that either William, you weren't born male, or Sage, you weren't born female, because you look,
thank you,
you know, like a normal, what they call a normal family. Now, let's talk a little bit about the government in the US. Let's talk a little bit about that clown show that's going on in that House of Representatives with all these different, Sage, you as an entertainer, it really must affect you with all the negative stuff that they're saying about trans people and drag queens.
You know what? I find it comical, honestly. It kind of makes our government look a little jokish, because when you look at the situation as a whole, you realize that it has nothing to do with what they're pushing it to be. There's nothing to do with gay this or queens that or kids that. It has nothing to do with that at all. If that was the case, we wouldn't have had such successful movies as Tootsie or Tu Wong Fu or TV shows. TV shows like Bosom Buddies. We would never have had those shows. This isn't new. People dressed in drag and performing has never been new. You know, it's here. It's been here. So that shows you that that's not the issue. Now the question is, what is the real issue? What is the real agenda? What's going on?
Well, you know, it's a good thing that to me, there's two things I'm going to address you now, Sage, about this, because I think that it needs to be said. RuPaul, who has the biggest drag show on television now, and yet she hasn't stepped up to defend the drag queens for Storybook Hour or the trans community where she comes from, Atlanta. And the fact that the young kids who have won these shows and gone on to make lots of money, and a lot of the few that have made millions of dollars, you don't see them speaking up about any of these issues. And this is something that's very concerning. You still see the old guard, meaning the older queens, still stepping up to protect the community and stand up for their rights. Now, why do you think that is?
Well, it all comes down to a dollar.
Yeah.
There's so much to
Capitalism.
lose. There's so much to lose. Most of these entertainers are, bless their hearts, they're making more money than they ever anticipated in making. And they're making the best decisions for themselves because everyone has to put food on the table. Everyone has to build a future. So I cannot go forward without understanding and respecting that they are doing what's best for their own lives. Charity starts at home. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, those girls are doing what they're supposed to do to secure their own lives. Now, the reason that we have, by the grace of God, still the old guard is because these people have, these entertainers have paved the way. They know the fight. They understand the cost, and they're willing to pay it. But they were also never afforded the opportunity to make the money like these entertainers today do. This is what they know, and by the grace of God, we have them and are able to rely on them because they stay at the forefront to fight. They yell when nobody else yells, when everyone wants us to be silent. Our community guard, as I would call them, are still there.
Wonderful. Well, that's wonderful. I wanted to say that because, me being on the internet so much and trying to, our mailboxes is full every day with people wanting to share their stories and talk about the stories. But she made it really clear to me the direction we're going to take Pronoun TV in. And it needs to be about real life and real stories and what's happening now and what we have to do to make sure that we're going to be okay in the future, to make sure that our voice is being loud and heard. Because now we're getting this thing here, this thing online about Black men. And I'm gonna say it to you, William, as a man, as you identify as a man now, and then you, Sage, as as a Black woman. This masculine and feminine thing has really taken over the internet about men on the DL and this masculine feminine thing. What do you feel about that?
So at the end of the day, I feel like gender is always going to be a spectrum. I'm going to respect you however you want to present. I don't agree with hypermasculinity because I think it's toxic, nor do I agree with hyper femininity because I feel like it's also toxic, because I feel like those extremes have been ingrained in their families at some point, where a hyper femininity might mean I'm willing to forego it all to just rely on a man to take care of me, or that type of toxic hyper masculinity being well, I am better than you because I am almighty man. And it's hard when it is a spectrum, and it's where can we go from here to decide it's okay as a man to show emotion, have emotion, express emotion, to where you don't get to the point where we get shootings and mental health needs like that, which is often in this country predominantly Caucasian males. And then in the same spectrum of females, stand up for yourself, because when you were called into the workforce as Rosie the Riveter and asked to go back home, not every woman went back home and they took charge and took lead. There is always a good in between, and we just got to find that ground.
When it comes to the thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. When it comes to the DL thing, coming from the African American community,
because I won't deal with it.
I've always felt like, and I've dealt with my share of DL men. Of course I have. Most girls in my situation at some point do. And those who don't are either really lucky or lying. But
Mhm.
with that being said, when it comes to DL men, it's not always about the lie. That's the misconception about DL men. It's not about the lie always. Oftentimes, these men are not even allowed to be in safe spaces where they can be who they are for fear of being vilified by their community, meaning the African American community. You have men that would proudly walk in the day with the people that they love, but what do they lose? They'll lose their family, the respect of their friends and their community. You know, so it's a very hard road for oftentimes a DL man to walk. You know, not to excuse their behavior, but to give some understanding, because I've known more than my fair share of DL men who always